Thanks for joining me. I'm Les Wallace, the 9 Minute Mentor. For the next few moments, we'll be reviewing the fundamental responsibilities of serving on a board of directors. Now, if you're new to a board or you're thinking about board service, this will ground your knowledge of the legal, professional, and ethical responsibilities of governance. The first thing to recognize is that your entity is a legally established corporation. The corporate bylaws dictate the processes of governance required by the state in which you have incorporated. If you've not reviewed your corporate bylaws, it's a good idea to do so and to keep them handy during your period of board service. Now, your corporation may have a for profit or a not for profit status. If you're a for profit corporation, you will have incorporation bylaws that will make you responsible to shareholders who determine the makeup of the board of directors. If you're a not for profit, there are several IRS designations under which you are probably classified. The most common charitable, educational, and scientific organizations range from 501c3s, a very common one, to other 509A and other designations. There are similar designations in the credit union field. Federal credit unions are 501c1s, state credit unions are 501c14s. As part of board orientation, you might ask for a copy of the IRS designation letter. Knowing your tax status designation is important so you understand the regulations under which your organization must work. Now, legal responsibilities stipulate that a board member must always act in the best interest of the corporation. Recent history has called several large business boards into question on this requirement. Countrywide Financial, Lehman Brothers, WorldCom are names you might recall. And of course, if you can't remember, Google Enron and their massive governance failure. So, when we get to the basic categories, I consider these principles actually fairly boring to recite, but they are the core standards upon which your service must be based and are important to attend to. There are three: the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. What is the duty of care? First, fiduciary responsibility. That is, the responsibility board members have assumed to advance the organizational mission and oversee and protect its assets. This requires that you uphold the standard of reasonable and prudence in the use of resources and assets, that you regard and treat the organizational assets and other resources with the same care with which you would treat your own personal resources. Further, that you use your best informed judgment regarding what's best for the organization overall, and possibly periodically check the credentials and the performance of those who serve the organization. It requires that you work diligently to stay informed, engaged, and attentive to governance work, including a personal commitment to continued learning about the organization and about good governance. It suggests that you should attend those meetings, do your research, and ask pertinent and challenging questions, and certainly raise ethical questions. To fulfill the duty of care, it's very important for you to speak up and openly share your perspective. That's regardless of other majority or minority opinion. And finally, the duty of care requires that you use prudent judgment in the utilization of organizational resources, including financial support for board activities. A local school board member in my state was caught using her board expense credit card for Netflix movies and X Games. A local city council board member was recently embarrassed when her expense report was made public and extravagant meals and travel expenses were revealed, way beyond what the public considered good and fair judgment. I once served on a homeowner's board of directors where the chairperson wanted the entire board to go out to an expensive steakhouse dinner at the expense of the HOA because we work so hard as volunteers, she said. Fortunately, my board understood that we were volunteers and used a kind of a prudent guideline to govern that decision. What if we had put that to a vote? Would the HOA members approve the $350 meal for the board? We thought not. We did a potluck instead. Now, your board may also need to be alert to how you spend on board dinners, on travel, and events. There's a legal responsibility to use the corporate assets wisely. A good question to ask is, what would your constituency say if they saw those expenditures exposed in the newspaper? A second fundamental responsibility of governance is referred to as the duty of loyalty. This requires board members to disclose conflicts of interest immediately. A conflict of interest arises whenever the personal or professional interests of a board member are potentially at odds with the best interests and decisions of the organization. This could be approving contracts or even a banking arrangement that benefits you or your family, or any other contract for that matter. Board members are expected to speak up at any time they believe they have a conflict of interest. I believe you should be very conservative with this and disclose anything you believe might be a conflict of interest and allow the board or your legal counsel to make a determination. Certainly, all board members should annually sign a conflict of interest statement on file with your secretary so that you confirm your promise to the constituents to be loyal to interests of the organization over your own. A lot can change in your relationships over a year. That's why it's annually re signed. A conflict of interest, a real one, may require that you simply abstain from participation in a board decision or, at its most stringent, resign from the board. Remember, when in doubt, bring the issue to the attention of your board chairperson. Additionally, the duty of loyalty requires that you put aside narrow or personal professional interests to do what's best for the organization and its constituents, and that you protect the confidentiality of sensitive issues and plans of the organization. This last one on confidentiality can be tricky. In a land of free speech, there must be a corporate reason to protect board matters as confidential. Usually, protecting the strategic interests of the corporation by not letting competitors or other businesses know in advance of an action you intend to take is a good reason, such as purchasing property, merging with another organization, or filing a lawsuit. But this also includes protecting the privacy of action taken with employees or board members that may be viewed as negative to their performance, such as disciplinary action, censorship, or termination. The third fundamental board responsibility is known as the duty of obedience. Now, here are board members expected to support the organizational mission, and if that mission changes and they can no longer support it, they should resign. They must also understand and obey the laws and the regulatory requirements and organizational bylaws, policy values, and ethical standards. Obedience to those. This is why new board orientation is so crucial. Review all of those documents and statements thoroughly so that you fully understand your commitments. Now, there you have it, the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. Governance work is important legal work. You are the trustee of the corporate assets, its reputation, and its future. Stay attuned to your serious obligations as you go about being a responsible trustee.